Here. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Tuesday Notary Titans. My name is Bill Soroka, founder of NotaryCoach.com and the Sign and Thrive Notary Training Course and Community. I'm here with my co-host, Miss Carol Ray, founder of Notary to Pro. Carol, welcome. How are you today?
I am wonderful today.
Yeah? What are you excited about?
I don't know. We got things torn up here. Bill's building a new patio for us because the boards are bad. So he's out there working. And I don't know. We've just been busy and I've been having fun mentoring all morning this morning. So
awesome. Good. That's what it's all about. Laura, how about you? And then we have, I'm sorry, the second code, Laura Biewer, founder of CoachMeLaura.com. How's it going, Laura?
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. What are you excited about?
It's a great day. I'm excited because every day seems to just be getting better. 2020 is the year. That's all I can say. It is the year. Things are happening. I've got a new website I'm working on. I've got new projects I'm working on. Every day is different. And I love that because I have a couple of siblings who they call it Groundhog's Day. Like another day, same place, same story. And you know what? That's not my life. My life is a different schedule, different clients, different story every day. And I love that.
I love that too. I think the three of us think a lot of the same. I didn't realize how much novelty means to me, but I have to experience new things. I have to take new ways home. I have to see starting new things and new creative ideas. I love that. For me, one of the cool, I'm the same way, so I have tons to be excited about here. And I'm going to just mute everybody before we do our reminders here. Okay. One of the cool things I'm excited about is one of the big projects I've been working on for 2 years is really starting to come alive. I'll go into more detail on that in the next couple months. But one of the cool things we've got solidified right now is, you might remember it from last year. We had Mark Allen Grollo, the big wedding officiant, the unboring wedding officiant guy, did a webinar for us on how to create an amazing wedding ceremony. Well, in March, on March 4th, mark your calendars, he's doing another one for people who have decided to take that plunge in how to really grow and explode your business by creating a unique personality for your wedding officiant business. So that is up and ready to go. I'm going to post the link right here if you'd like to get registered. You guys are the first to hear about it. So feel free and register for that on March 4th at 12 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And that's what I've been working on a little bit today. So without further ado, let's jump in to Tuesday Notary Titans. A couple of reminders, everyone who's listening. Remember, please keep yourself muted unless you have been called on to ask a question. That way we can't hear your background noise and we hear everything. Typing, paper shuffling, sneezes, other noises, everything, we can hear it. So please keep yourself muted. On that same line of thought, please remember, if you have chosen to turn your camera on, please make sure you don't mind if we see everything that's going on there. So if you're doing something you'd rather us not see, turn your camera off so we don't see it. All right. Carol, Laura, what do you think? Should we open up to live questions or do you want to jump right into the presentation?
Live questions. I like live questions.
Live questions. All right. I love it. So anybody who's on the call right now that would like or has a burning question that you would like to ask, feel free.
And I would like to say one thing before we start.
Yeah.
Because I should have mentioned it. We're closer, just a couple of days away before we do the primetime notaries, which is really geared for the more mature notaries out there. We're almost ready. And anybody who signed up, and we've got, I think I mentioned last time, we've got almost 400 people or a little over 400 people signed up for it so far. We will be sending out this afternoon the invitations with the link, and all you have to do is click on it, download GoToMeeting, which took me seconds to do, and we'll be ready to go. And we're going to have a guest, I think this week, and that's Roger Reel from Ohio. He's awesome. Great guy, and just full of, you know, all kinds of experience. So I welcome all of you to come, but we're kind of geared to the more mature audience. So like me.
Awesome. Love that. Love that. All right. Anybody who wants to, oh, and Carol, if people are interested in that,
I do.
how do they get?
Go to notary2pro.com. I'm sorry. And you go to where it says Primetime Notaries on the home page, about halfway down, and right under it is a place to type in your email address. That's all we need. You'll go into a database which will be kept, and it'll be sent out every time that we have a meeting for it. And it's going to be Thursday night at 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. So back east, 7 o'clock, and then it's 5 and Central and Mountain is a little later. So
I'm sorry. Is it 7 p.m.? It starts at 7 p.m.
it's 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Perfect.
Yeah. So I think is Mountain Time first. Mountain Time is earlier than Central.
Well, yeah, Pacific, Mountain, Central.
So it's 5 o'clock
In between.
Central. 6 o'clock. I don't know.
Well, let's talk about
Everybody
that.
figure out your own time.
So I'm so glad that you're running into this. So, and I have been getting tons of emails about this. So let's talk about time zone, guys, because there's no possible way for Carol, Laura, or even myself to know what time zone you're in. Number one, I get some that just say, what time zone is that? What time is that in my zone? Without giving me any additional information. So let's talk about it. If you use your resources, I think that's one of the most important things that we can do as coaches is to get you to be resourceful. You have the world at your fingertips. So if something's starting, let's use TNT for example, at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, you can ask Google what time it is in San Diego, see how that compares to the time you're at, and then you'll have an idea of what your time zone is, and then schedule it on your calendar. Take responsibility for your learning and your business and put it right on your calendar so you have the reminders and you're not reliant on us to tell you what time these things start. It's going to get confusing. It is confusing for all of us, especially because even though we're just now getting used to this, it's going to change again in less than a month when the time zone changes again. We're going to keep, like for us, 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for TNT, but that might affect you a little bit. Try to use Google and all your other resources, Siri, all of it, before you ask somebody else because they might be wrong. I learned this the hard way. I have misquoted time zones. So take that. Yeah, Candy says the world clock is the bomb. The world clock is the bomb. All right.
I forgive phone calls that come into our office at 6 o'clock in the morning, even 5 o'clock in the morning. But when they start calling us at 2 and 3 a.m., it is too much.
Yeah, little early. Okay. So anybody who's on the call now, Paula, it sounded like you may have had a question for us. You want to?
Yes, I do. Good afternoon, my amazing Kinsey family. I was presented with the fake ID yesterday that looked so real. And the only reason I was able to figure out that it wasn't, confirmed that it wasn't real was because it didn't have the hologram and it had the great seal of California because that's where I'm at, but it wasn't where it kind of glows, or I don't know how you call that seal where, Laura, I know you know, what's the proper wording for that?
Laura, you're muted. Sorry.
It's the UV light. If you do the UV light, it should show up.
Yeah, so it didn't, and it got really upset. So I didn't want to get too nervous.
Mm-hmm.
So I just told them, you know what, I lied. And I just want to know, what would you guys do? How do you guys, if you guys have been presented with something like that, how do you handle it so that you kind of get out of that situation very smoothly and not be, harassed? But yeah, so I put the UV light on the ID, and you cannot see the hologram or the picture behind that you can see behind when you use the UV light.
Paula, was this for a loan signing or a general notary work appointment?
No, it was general notary work. I do a lot of general notary work. I do both, but it was for general notary work, and it was for an affidavit for lost unclaimed income or inheritance or something like that. So the only reason I could tell is because I've been doing it for so many years, and the ID, I'm not kidding you, looked identical. If it would have been another notary, a new notary, they would have never figured it out. But it just felt a slight difference in the texture when you found the ID. So that's what I started like questioning it. And the lady, and you have to pay attention to this because they start distracting you right away.
Right.
She kept on saying, "Oh, your jewelry is so beautiful. Oh, you know, I see you like white silver," or trying to ask me all these questions so that I would not focus on her ID. So, but her partner got extremely upset because I didn't accept the ID. So he's like, "Show me what you mean that it's a fake ID." You know, and I'm like, "Oh, well, look, let me show you this. You know, I'm going to show you the black light. You can't see it. Look at my ID. Look at this one." And I go, "You know what? You know, since your fiance just got her ID, maybe someone swapped it. I know I just made up a lie because I got scared because he was like, you know, upset that I wasn't taking the ID." So anyway, well, how do you guys approach that? How do you guys handle that?
Laura, how do you feel about, I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead. Carol, you had something?
Carefully. How did you feel? You said you felt a little uncomfortable, but was there that little bell that went off inside of you that said, "Boy, you're really
Carol,
careful"?
Yeah, my husband always says, "I don't know what it is about you, but I can always tell when there's something iffy about someone. Something like protects me. So I always listen to my instincts no matter what." So, and sometimes I think, okay, maybe it's not, maybe I'm just overthinking things, but I can tell right away. What made it more clear when she started trying to distract me about my jewelry, about, you know, what I was wearing, trying to ask me all these different questions, that I knew because someone had brought it up before. If they start asking you.
Polly, I think you just went away.
Yeah, what happened there?
So we'll come back whenever you maybe come back into a different zone. Laura, what do you say on this, on general notary work appointments, when you run across something that's clearly fraudulent and when it comes to ID?
So I focus not on them, that you're a fake. I focus on the ID. I love that she said, "Well, this is what I'm seeing different. I know this ID is good and I can see the illumination of the third photograph, but I don't see it on yours. My training says don't take a card that doesn't meet the requirements." So I don't know why yours, see, I'm not saying it's fake. I'm just saying I don't know why yours doesn't meet the requirement, what's with the card. All I can tell you is I need a different form of ID from my list. Otherwise, this is not going to work today.
Yeah, and I did tell them. I told them about 2 credible witnesses or a passport. They're like, "Oh, okay, I don't have that. And how does the credible witnesses work?" And then I explained that to them. They're like, "Okay, well, we'll get back to you." But I never heard back. So.
Yeah, of course not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that.
Yep. Excellent. Thanks for sharing that, Paula.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else would like to, you can raise your hand using the system. If you'd like to just unmute and ask, that's okay too. Anybody else have a live question? All right, let's jump into the presentation. I'm sure you'll get some, so
Hello?
don't even sweat it. Oh, hi, Kaylin.
Hi. I wanted to ask the question. Well, I asked, I think Judith, if she got my question regarding doing a deposition. Like, how many signatures does a person normally do? As far as that, what I'm looking for.
Well, I've done a deposition and it's one person. So it's one signature at the end. You have to give the person an oath up front.
Mm-hmm.
You record by writing or typing down the story, and then you have a certificate of deposition at the end. So you have 2 different things you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
That depending on what state you're in. I don't know what state you're in.
We're in California.
California, it's $7 for the oath up front. It's $7 for the certificate of deposition at the back end, and it's $30 for the writing it down. And if you don't have that shorthand certified skill, then you need to make sure your client speaks slow enough, because you're not allowed to abbreviate. You've got to write down every word, either typing or writing, no recording it and then playing it back.
So you're saying the signatures all together, because I know you can only charge $15 per signature.
Well, deposition is not a notarization. It's a different situation. Your notarial act is the oath for the person who's telling you the story.
Oh, okay.
All right. And then the certificate of deposition at the back end, that would be your other one. And that's 7 and 7. And then the recording of the deposition isn't a notarial act. It's just another piece of what you're doing. And so you can get 7 and 7 and 30. That's the most you can charge.
Oh,
The
okay.
whole process. And that process, however long it takes you to get it done. I don't recommend notaries to be taking depositions unless it's something really simple, because it takes a long time, because there are mandated charges that says you can't go above this or that, and because this is for court. So you better be darn accurate with what you're doing. So you know what? I don't think that's my business. That's just not where I want to focus. So I don't tell people that I'm authorized to do it.
Yeah, I won't do that then. I think I'll pass by that. So if a lawyer has something that they need you to notarize, that's usually a one signature. Like, it's not a deposition, but she just needs a notary, I guess.
Well, I don't know. Unless you tell me what it is, I don't know. If it's one person, one client, it's probably one signature per document that the attorney needs notarized.
Okay. Okay, that sounds good. Thank you so much for that, because it changes my mind about that. Okay, thank you.
Great question, Kaylin. That's a new one. We haven't heard that before on TNT.
Yeah, I've done that. It's not fun.
All right. Last chance for any live questions right now. Lauren, I noticed you unmuted. Do you have a question?
No.
Yeah, I do. Sorry, I'm struggling here.
Yeah, no problem.
So I should have asked this 100 loan signings ago, and I didn't. So in the journal, it says, obviously you put the date that you're there and the customer is signing, and it says document date. And I don't know, probably 2/3 of the documents don't have dates on them, I've noticed. And so do I just leave that blank then, where it says document date? Because you wouldn't put a signing date if really it's not the date on the document other than the date that it was signed.
What state are you?
California.
Collecting the date of a document in the state of California is not a requirement for the journal. It's optional information. You can write none, or you could use the date of signing.
Okay, or I could put a blank, just a line.
Leave it blank.
Okay, cool. That's kind of what I've been doing. So if I see the date that's typed in there on the document itself, I've been writing it in. Otherwise, I just put a line through it.
Perfect.
Thanks.
You're set. Yeah, no problem, Lauren. Great question. L. Young, I see your hand up. Would you like to unmute and ask your question? L. Young, you are muted, so you have to unmute. All right, I'm going to unmute you just in case. Oh,
Thank you.
sure. Is this Frazier?
Can you hear me
Who is
now?
this? Oh, is this L. Young?
This is Lori.
Oh,
Yes.
Lori. Hey, how's it going, Lori?
I'm going pretty good, Bill. Thank you. Just have a question. I went to a signing, and when I arrived, I was not aware that there was another notary that was supposed to do a second portion. The customer had an 80-20 split. So when I arrived, they said, well, are you the notary? We were told the appointment was canceled. I says, well, no, I have the paperwork. It turns out there was a second notary. I had the primary loan. The second notary had the secondary loan, and that notary had canceled. Would it have been okay to say to them or to the title company, if they wanted to send the docs over, I could go ahead and facilitate the second signing? I didn't say anything because I didn't know if it was appropriate to do that. But because when I got there, they were very upset. They'd taken off all day, and our appointment was at the end of the day, so they were quite angry. And it was my last appointment of the day, so I could have done it, but I didn't know if it was considered poaching or.
No, to me, so first of all, it's weird for two notaries to be booked for something like that. That was a weird fluke, and I don't know what their scheduling system was, but I've never heard of anything like, well, I've heard some weird stuff, so I'll take that back. But typically on an 80-20, you'll get the same notary. It's still part of the same transaction. So we'll do the first loan signing, and then we'll do the second. When you're booking through signing companies, there's usually an additional fee that you'll be paid to do that. So I think it would have been absolutely within your realm, or even good customer service to say, hey, I'm here. You want me to print that out, or can the borrower print it out, or whatever? It's kind of tough because you never know. Just because it's an 80-20 and there's a first and a second mortgage, it does not mean that the second mortgage paperwork is less than the first. Sometimes those second mortgages, depending on the lender, can be as big and just like a first mortgage. So it's kind of a tough situation, but I don't think there's a poaching concern here at all. Anybody else? Yeah, you bet.
I have something that's similar that happened to me, Bill.
Yeah.
And actually, you know, the notary that was there, her and I, we got really intimidated by each other. But it was so cool because at the end of the day, we became such good friends. And she was in a different county and I'm in a different county. And we have given so much business to each other. So we became like power partners. So take advantage of that. Yes.
I love that. Excellent. Great way to look at it too. Cassandra Creech, I see your hand up. Would you like to ask your question? Cassandra, you have to unmute yourself. I'm going to hit unmute on you right now so you can start talking. Cassandra, we can hear you. Maybe we can't. All right. Sorry, we can't hear you. If you want to type your question, we can help. Judy.
Can I ask a quick question if I may again?
Yeah, you're here. Go for it.
This is for Laura. Laura, I just want to get clarification. I think you mentioned this last time. So you said we do not have to write the address of the signer on our journals?
That's right. If you're in California, that's correct. The name and address column is optional for the notary. I would always print their name.
Of course, I will always
can't read their signatures, but that whole column is optional. So even if you did write it once, you could use down arrows or shortcuts for the rest.
Oh my gosh, because I used to write it like in every line. So it would take me an hour to fill out my journal. So that's amazing news. Thank you so much.
Great question. Judy Rochelle, you have a question. Would you like to ask away?
Sure. Just in case if a person has no driver's license, this is going to be a crazy question, but I've seen this happen. Driver's license, they don't have their driver's license and they do not have a passport, but they have a green card with their picture and all the information on it. Is that legally an alternative ID to use?
Issued by the United States government?
Yes.
So Laura, what do you think? Oh, you're on mute. I'm sorry.
I didn't hear the ID. That was...
It's a green card or a U.S. resident card.
Was this for state of California?
State of Tennessee.
Yes.
Tennessee, I would have to look up because your ID requirements are different than mine. It's not allowed in my state, but it may be in yours. It just depends on how it's described. So why don't you guys go on and I'll look it up. Tennessee ID.
Oh, fantastic. All right, excellent. So going back to Cassandra Creech's question, she says, regarding the Patriot Act form, do I have to get an ID from the second section of IDs, or can I use two photo IDs that are from the I'm assuming from the primary section instead of the secondary? Carol, what's your opinion on that?
Unmute me.
You're unmuted.
No, they're pretty demanding. Most of the lenders that I've found, they want from the second list, they want what's listed there. They don't want, like, if you give them a passport for the second one and a driver's license for the first, or a driver's license for the number one and military ID or something for the second one, I've seen that rejected. In fact, my daughter just had that happen just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, that's unusual because I've had a different experience on my end. Although there's there's exceptions. It's lender specific. So if you really got into a situation where you had a question about it, it's probably okay to reach out to the closing agent and ask them. I have had passports and driver's license. That's usually okay. They're just looking for two confirmations that there's a name match and that they are who they say they are. There's one lender in particular that's probably the most particular about all of them, and that's the provident. They seem to be picky about everything. So anytime there's a question on provident loans, that's usually, I'll double check that. Donna, did you have a question there?
You know how they have those cameras on Eagle's Nest and they kind of keep track of them well?
There she goes. Okay, Crystal, I see your hand up in the air. Would you like to ask a question? You have to unmute yourself to ask.
Mute me. Can you hear me?
There you go. Hi, Crystal.
Hey, okay. Now, I've been really studying this reverse mortgage thing. Let's see. What is the difference between going on title and a lien holder? I understand there's a difference.
In our world, a lien holder is the bank that holds the lien on the property. So they've got the loan. So whoever has a loan on the deed is typically called the lien holder. And then going on title is just meaning how a signer or a consumer, whether or not they are on deed or title to the property.
Okay. Simple and direct.
That makes sense?
Mm-hmm. I was going to take the, what is it? The CRMP test. And so that's okay to take now. I mean, I could do that. I mean, do I have to go through? I mean, I've studied the course and all, but I'm wondering, I mean, I didn't know if it was just for to be a loan officer, because it was more like, but it's okay for a signing agent.
So Crystal, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take an opportunity here just to add clarity to your question for everybody else who's listening. What you're talking about is the Certified Reverse Mortgage Signing Professional program that's offered through Notary Coach. So once you take that training, you can take that test and you will be more educated than most loan officers when it comes to that. There's a distinction though. CRMP is for loan officers. CRM-SP that we've created is for signing agents that are interested in pursuing reverse mortgages. So once you study the course and you're ready and prepared to take the test, you can. I'm warning you, it's super intense. It's a 100 questions. You must pass with a 90%. And if you don't pass the first time, you have to wait 48 hours before you can take it.
Okay. Okay, so there's two tests, one for loan. That's where I was getting confused. One for loan officer and one for the signing. Okay, gotcha.
All right, Crystal, thanks a lot. Great question. I'm excited for you. Hey, Frazier, you've got a question.
Just had a question in regards to the reverse mortgage. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sure can.
Okay, cool. Just you mentioned something before about the registry of some sort that you guys were going to, and how that was coming.
Yeah, sure, Frazier. In fact, I'll send out an update on that. That's more of a Sign and Thrive specific type question. So we'll get out the information on that on the directory, but we have not released that yet. We'll talk about that on Thursday morning with the reverse mortgage training call. Thanks for bringing that up.
Let me see.
So, Laura, you have I see you have an answer for the Tennessee. How's it going?
Yeah, good. So that resident card, no. They name the driver's license and state IDs for all 50 states. They name U.S. and foreign passports, and military ID cards are all acceptable. But that permanent resident card is not.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Perfect. All right. Patricia Bridges, I see your hand up.
Hey, hello, everybody. I have a question, maybe an observation. Some of these things that we're having to tell the clients, or it's the first time that they're hearing it, or they're not prepared, it seems that the loan officers are leaving that gap there. They should be telling them what type of ID they need to have when the notary is coming, or the closing agent, however they want to identify us, but they don't.
Well,
so when I introduce myself, I normally tell them what they need to have for me to go with the package.
That's probably just a good best practice anyway, Patricia. And usually you can include that in the confirmation or in that confirmation conversation, whether it's via text, email, or phone call. You can definitely bring that up. Now, here's what's interesting about this is they have probably been told. They have probably been told a couple of different times. but people are busy, and the mortgage process is extremely overwhelming for most people. So they might forget it. And then there's lenders that do not communicate effectively. They do not send that information out. There's closing agents that don't, for whatever reason. So it's a little bit of mix of everything. But I definitely recommend that you kind of take control of what you can, and definitely remind them of the ID requirements for the appointment.
And back to what you were saying about what's acceptable. I had the same thing where the client had their driver's license. They didn't have social security or voter registration, which was column number 2. They wanted to give me their FOIA cards, which was a government issued. I said, there's no place on there. There's not even a place for other. What about a passport? So both of their forms of ID came from section A, or part 1. And it was accepted when I turned it into titles. So, and I let them know this is what they had, this is what they didn't. So if you don't want to accept that, maybe we can get in touch with them and they have to produce something else. But it was accepted. So, like you say, I guess it depends on the lender.
Exactly. The lender and their closing department and their compliance department. Excellent.
Well, thank you. That was all that I had to.
Yeah, no, I love it. Thanks, Patricia. Great question. Crystal, I see you have another question. You want to unmute?
Okay. I've been I'm going to be doing the general notary also. Thanks to you, Laura, for your instructions. That helps a lot. And along with the loan signing, but I'm kind of torn between getting a website or Facebook. Now, the guy that's going to be working on my website, I told him, what my concept was and what I plan on doing. And he said, well, it sounds to me like you probably should get a Facebook, page. And so I'm kind of not sure, because, I wanted to do from the get known strategy. I know you were saying to do the video and transcribe into the blog and all that, but I didn't know if you could still do that on Facebook. So I'm kind of confused as to which direction to go.
I think that's a great question. I love that you're jumping in there on that one. So and there's tons of answers for this, right? But if your goal is to build a long-term business as a mobile notary and a loan signing agent, meaning that you're going to be doing general notary work, you're going to be doing loan signings as well, you're going to maybe some of the other components that we can do under our notary umbrella, then both are going to be essential. The website's like your base camp where you can provide all of your resources and information for people. Social media is where you can go to talk about it, and you can share value and share information that would then point people back to your website or your blog. So they kind of feed into each other. Now, having said that, because there's some people who are on this call that are not interested in growing both sides of the business. They're just here for loan signings. Now, if you're just building a business for loan signings, we know that you're probably not getting an enormous or a sliver of business from your actual web presence. Still, a website is going to be important just for personal branding, so people can find you and validate your existence and that you're real.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. Appreciate that.
Yeah, you bet. Great question. All right. Ana Santos, you have a question for us? I'm just going to mute you then. Great questions today, guys. Okay, so I'm getting a private message from Erin. She says, are there any documents that are included in the refinance that you have not gone over in your training that I need to know about? I have gone through and searched for anything in the refi. Yeah. The entire, so I can speak for mine, and Carol can even share on her training as well. But all of the documents that you're going to find in my training are definitely refinance packages. There's not much difference between a refinance and a purchase, guys. A mortgage is a mortgage. There are going to be some key documents like a right to cancel and maybe a couple other ones that will be different that signify that it is a purchase versus refinance. But for the most part, the document packages are going to be about the same. Carol, do you have anything else to add on your training specifically for refinances and purchases?
Yeah, and I haven't had a problem with it. I kind of get concerned sometimes because I have one set of documents. Every page is marked with permanent markings on there with what they can explain, what they can't explain, you know, UPL. I mean, everything, every document in that package, I go through one page at a time with every bit of information. And people will ask me, well, do you have VA? Do you have this? A loan package is a loan package. If it's a refinance, if it's a new loan, it doesn't matter. Those documents are all basically the same. Now, lawyers have come out and they've invented other documents, like the compliance agreement. How many names can the compliance agreement have? Power of attorney. I mean, there's so many. So that's what I tell people. And if they are in a signing or when they get their documents, if there's something that's a little unusual, compare with what they have. They're probably going to find a match and say, oh yeah, that's the same as this, or call me, because I couldn't take the time. People wouldn't come through the course. It's already long enough.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't go through the course if they had to go through 6 sets of documents, you know.
That is so true. And I love that you're on the same page. And the other point on that too, is that there is absolutely no possible way that we can do a training that will include every single document that you could possibly encounter in every single state, with every single lender, with every single title company. It's just not real. So a lot of things, like in my training, we set up the scripts for the most critical documents and then some. And then we teach you, you know, what to look for so you can kind of create your own. This isn't Shakespeare. So a lot of the documents, you're just reading the title or the bold print or the first paragraph. And if you've done your job in the beginning of signing, establishing rapport and confidence, it's totally acceptable to just say, hey, you know, this is a new document. This lender's doing things a little bit different. Let me just make sure this is what I think it is. Even if you have no idea what it is, you can just say, yep, that's exactly what I think it is. That's the authorization for your impound account, for your taxes and insurance. And you can go through that with the right rapport. That's normal. I still have to do that sometimes.
That's why I tell my students, if you get to something, especially on their first one, because we don't want anybody to ever know it's their first one, right? And so I say, if you come to something and you look at it and go, oh, they've changed it again. What the heck is this? I haven't seen this one before. Do you mind if I call my sister, my cousin, my mentor, Carol?
Yep.
And, you know, and it's quickly taken care of. But it also makes things very interesting, not having the same thing over and over. I think it was always kind of exciting when I came to something that was really different.
There's a little bit of a thrill in that. And I think that's the nerd in us that really enjoys this kind of work, because you are going to encounter things. Guys, if every signing was exactly the same every single time, no one would do this. We'd go crazy. Part of the thrill is that there's enough consistency that we can have a rhythm and we can have a methodology that gets us through it. But the signers, every signer is different. Every signer has a different story. Every now and then there's a wonky thing in there, and we don't have to own that. That's the beautiful thing about the role that we play. We didn't create this document. We don't have to be able to explain the minute detail of every single document. We just have to be able to guide people through, and if they have a question or if they want to challenge it, we put them in contact with the people that can do that for them.
I want to just add kind of a twist on this question, because I've had 2 phone calls just today before the show about documents that were included in a loan package. And the question wasn't, what is the document? The question is, why did they put it in? Because I don't think it belongs. And I just want to say, it's not my job to know why. It could have been an accident. It could have been some other reason, something, a part of the story I'm not privy to. There are a lot of reasons why there may be a document, whether it's because it's duplicated or it's the same thing slightly different, or it's totally like, this is a refi and this is about purchase. My job is to make sure that I've introduced it, get the signatures. If it's notarized, get the signatures. That's my job. And so if you're interested to know about the document, Google's your best friend. Alexa's pretty good. You can call one of us and we're happy to talk about what we know about the document. But I just want to remind us, as we become more knowledgeable, it becomes, I don't know, like an addiction to know. I want to know what it does. I want to know why it's in here. And remember, you know, here's where we work, right here, in between here and here. And so it's okay to not know why a document's in there, because that's not my job. And maybe it was just on accident. If the signer is like, well, why is this in here? I don't understand. Hey, let's just take a moment. Maybe you want to make a call to your loan officer and find out why that's in there, because that's not my job to explain why things are there.
That's huge. And, you know, depending on your personality type, that might be really difficult. In fact, I find that the new notaries and signing agents that come into this that are real black and white thinkers, there has to be a logical reason that applies. And in this business, logic does not always prevail. Sometimes there's just sometimes there's no reason. It's just a boilerplate template, and that's what we have to put in there. That can be really difficult to let go of. But once you do, and you find where you're operating, you'll find a lot more enjoyment in what you do. Oh, hi, Hank. Hi, Hank. You got a question for us?
Yes. Hi, Bill, and hello to you and your panel. I got a question for you. I just purchased a printer, 5200 Brothers, and I was printing from your document vault. The PDFs, will they come in letter and legal, or do I have to adjust the settings on them? I'm not sure if those documents will print out letter and legal.
Great question. Yes, in my document vault with all of those different loan packages, they all are multi-size. So they are letter and legal size. So if they are not printing that way, then there is probably something incorrect on your printer settings. What's important, and I'm not a tech guy, so if anybody has any suggestions here, but you have to, it's highly recommended that you also have Adobe and that you have a Microsoft Word or a PC as opposed to Apple, because they don't all play well together, with Brother in particular. So if anybody else have any suggestions on that?
I have one, actually, because I've had a problem with a lot of the students getting that Brother printer, and it doesn't work. Come to find out, there's been I've had it happen several times with several students, that they've had to go online and download the drivers. They've gone through HELL for like a week trying to get it to work, and then find out that they have to go get the driver because for some reason it wasn't put into the printer when they bought it.
Well, I have the driver, but it's dated 2014. I'm trying to figure out if the thing is outdated.
Did you buy it brand new?
Yes, I bought it brand new.
Yeah, weird. Maybe that was the last time it was updated, or maybe they do all their updates online since 2014.
All right, one more question. Some of these forms, like boiler templated as far as sides, like the note might always be one size, or the closing disclosure always one sides?
So, I mean, the closing disclosure is one that you can pretty much count on being letter size all the time. However, beyond that, it just depends on the title company and the lender. They get to decide. That's why a deed of trust or a mortgage document can sometimes be 9 pages, or sometimes it can be 17 pages. It just depends on their own situation on that one. So there's not really an umbrella statement that would cover all document sizes.
Okay, thank you.
Can I help with the printer issue? This is Suzanne.
Please. Hey, Suzanne.
How are you?
Good.
So I had that same issue. I actually have an Apple and I have an HP printer, and for the longest I couldn't get it to print, even though it's a dual tray printer. What I found was, one, you need to make sure your Adobe, your Acrobat reader is current, so always do the updates. But most importantly, when you get those loan docs, sometimes we try to print from the email versus downloading the file. it's very important that you download the file to your computer and then print it. That will make all the difference in the world.
Great tip. Thank you for that.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you for saying it, Suzanne, because that was my next comment. Was that's what I learned is I had to download it and then I had to go back to delete it later. So don't remember, if you download it to your computer, you got to delete it and then you got to empty your recycle bin. So make sure you do all the steps after.
Yep, great advice. Joyce Gonzalez, great to see you on here. How can we help today?
Oh, I wanted to comment on the printer problem.
Yeah.
I also believe that you have to set your tray. So one tray, the first tray is normally set to letter. The second one, you need to set it to legal size or whatever you're going to be using for it to recognize it to print legal. And that could be part of the problem as well. I also changed my glass, my screen size of my glass to legal size. So if I scan, it will pick up a legal size and not cut it off at letter. Something else to think about.
Awesome. Thanks for that tip. Hey, Michelle, you got another question for us? This might be a different Michelle. I don't know. I'm not sure. Michelle, you have to unmute to ask. All right, I'm going to try to unmute you and see if you're ready. Michelle, are you there?
Yes.
Hi.
Good afternoon, everyone. Calling from Oklahoma. Being a new notary, I guess individual, and like the lady was asking earlier about being surprised. What I'm looking for is I went on our website trying to find information. I mean, if you've never done this before, you know, it's a little scary. You don't want to go out there because I've been told that, hey, you know, you can accidentally do something you're not supposed to and you can find yourself in court. And I'm like, oh, really? Well, as a notary, is it pretty self-explanatory with most of the paperwork for as a notary only? Because I understand you have to take training to become a signing agent, which is to take a test and then you pass and then you have to call the excuse me, the NNA and sign up to get a background check and then go and take this test and then you become a signing agent. Okay, well, I know nobody just started and just jumped out there, did they? I mean, you need to have training through someone, and for whatever reason, I'm glad that you all are there for each other and helping one another. Again, I'm in Oklahoma. In another industry, I haven't been, people are not so helpful as far as that. I mean, I ask questions, I'm very detailed. I don't know, I just seems like I'm not getting the answers that I'm needing. And I'm not gonna just wanna just jump out there and be, you know, going out there and doing business on something. When you, like, for example, say someone calls you and say, I need you to come out to this location to do paperwork on a person as a notary, because I know signing agent is more intense, correct?
Well, so Michelle, I know we're going to get different opinions on that one, but if you ask me, general notary work is way more intense. And I'm going to explain my thinking on that one. In general notary work, to me, it's not obvious. You know, a lot of times the gray area of the documents and how they're worded, it's not really crystal clear. Oh, this is what you do. In general notary work, anybody in the world can draft a piece of paper and require a notarization on it. So it can be pretty intimidating. And that's why I think training is equally important, if not more so, well, on the general notary work side versus the loan signing side. It's important no matter what. It's important not to wing it. And I think this is a great opportunity. And Carol, maybe you can even jump in here too, but there's a lot of, even with tons of resources, and we have a community and we're outreaching and really trying to be there for everybody. There's a lot of people who just choose to wing it, whether it's loan signings or with general notary work. And it's unnecessary right now, number one, because there's so much affordable training and it does get you into a little bit of hot water. Yes, there's people who just jump out there and start all the time, but I highly recommend that you get some training on it.
Right. Yes, and I want to, and just wanting to know how long does it take before you can start, you know, doing the business and everything, because I don't know, I'm kind of having a little doubts a little bit
Sure.
But I'm just, I'll call, and I know you all want to start your meeting, so I'll save the rest of my questions for later. And by the way, Bill, just to give you your YouTube channels are awesome. I feel like I know you just from listening to your recordings and everything. So bless you all of you all that do what you do on YouTube. You're doing an awesome job. You make it very welcoming. Thank you.
Awesome. And Michelle, thank you. And I'm glad you're here. You're in the right place. I see lots of comments already in the chat window about that. And if you ever want to chat by phone, just to get some clarity on it, you can go to notarycoach.com and you can book a call with me anytime. Those are completely free. And if you have specific questions, this is the very safe environment to do that. You are in good hands here. And I love that you're here and taking initiative to continue to learn. Carol, anything you'd like to add into Michelle's situation?
Just to keep in mind that the worst thing that you can possibly do is fake it till you make it. I've seen disasters and people trying to do this without getting decent training. I mean, and as far as the work is concerned, you have to be trained. Whether it be through Bill, Laura, National Notary Association, Notary to Pro, you're going to have certification that's going to be acceptable to the companies out there. If you don't have proper certification, you're not going to get work. You're just going to be spinning your wheels.
Exactly.
So
Okay. Well, thank you all again, and God bless you all for everything that you do. And I'm finished, and thank you so much.
Thanks, Michelle. Thanks for being here. All right. Any other live questions? We're almost done with the call. We haven't even got into the presentation yet because these questions have been amazing. Anybody else want to unmute and ask away, or anything in the chat window I'm missing? Lauren, I see your question. I'll answer that privately. If that's okay, we'll go to the email and I'll tell you where to find the information on the Certified Reverse Mortgage Program and test. Thanks. Anyone else? All right, let's jump in here then. All right. All right, Carol, can you see us? Can you see our face on the presentation?
Yeah, I can even see my photograph from 20 years ago.
All right, this one I thought was kind of interesting. I'd love to hear your opinion on this one. This was from a gentleman who I believe is in Wisconsin. He says, my 6:30 a.m. signing asked if they had to complete the right to cancel document. I replied I had never had anyone ask me that question. He indicated that if the RTC is not signed, it automatically eliminates the 3-day right to rescind and makes the funds immediately available. Is that true? Have you heard of anything like this, Carol?
No.
I have not either. Laura, have you heard of any exceptions to the federal?
Absolutely not. It's a federal requirement. They got to wait.
Yeah. So if this is a refinance, number one, if it has to be a refinance of a primary residence away from their current lender,
that's right,
then there is a mandatory 3-day right to cancel. There's really no getting away. And trust me, guys, there will be people asking, because there's people who just need the money like right now, but you have to do this 3-day right to cancel.
There actually is a way out.
Oh,
I have conducted it. Yes, there actually is. They can get special permission to
like a hardship?
eliminate the requirement for that under certain circumstances. If there's some sort of a something that they're going through that could cause them harm,
like a hardship,
some kind of hardship,
yeah,
then they can get this signed off and legally get out of that right to cancel.
But there would definitely be some additional paperwork for that to waive
Yes.
that.
Yeah, there's actually there is an agreement that has to be signed by everyone, lender, everybody, title company.
So that wouldn't be happening impromptu at the table.
Right, right. That's planned in advance. Great question. Interesting situation. Okay, so in Texas, when instructions say to send all executed copies of notice of right to cancel back with docs, do you have signers also sign their copies? The last package I had instructions that said to send all signed NRTC back with the docs, 3 sets. So should they sign 6 total? So for me, I get this a lot. I have one client who wants, if they included 6, they want 6 back, but they're anticipating that we still meet the requirement, the legal requirement that at least 2 per borrower are left behind. So the expectation is that if you have your copies, you can have them sign those copies as well, but they have to be fully executed even when you leave them at the borrower's house.
Right.
That means any changes that you make to the transaction date and the rescission date, the signature, the date, all of that has to be completely executed if you're going to leave them behind. Otherwise, it's worthless. Any other suggestions or examples on that one, Laura and Carol?
Well, no, and I do have my signer sign all the documents regardless of those instructions. I always pull out the right to cancel from their set, and I do not leave blank right to cancels at their hands.
Nice.
Regardless.
I instruct my students to make sure that they execute 2 copies each, that they retain, and 1 copy for the lender.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I tell them, and I've never had a problem with the lender.
Yeah, that's pretty standard. That's how it usually goes. So if there's specific instructions, I mean, it's important that we follow the instructions. We want to keep our client, but we also don't want to not be in compliance with the law. So I think that's a good workaround, is to have them.
Well, up until a few years ago, we never had the borrowers execute their copies. They were left blank with them.
I don't mean the whole package. I just mean the right to cancel.
Yeah.
But no, it's actually within the last few years that they've required the borrowers to execute 2 copies to keep for themselves with no blanks.
Oh, interesting.
It's to protect them from fraud.
Yeah.
It's that time of year for this question.
Yeah.
Are notaries exempt from taxes? I wish.
I wish. Yeah. That's a big fat no.
Yeah, huge no. I think, there gets some confusion because we talk about that publication 332 with the IRS, where you might choose to be exempt from self-employment taxes depending on your business structure, where you're at in life. But you've got to get advice from a professional on this. Because even though you might think, oh yeah, I get to write off I don't have to pay the self-employment taxes. The self-employment taxes are what help you secure your Social Security and stuff in the future. So if you're not paying into that because you're taking the exemption, you might have some implications down the road. So make sure you get the best advice for the situation that you're in. And still, any income that you create, the IRS expects you to report it.
All of it.
State of Mississippi. How do I find local events in their area for networking, etc.? Laura, you're really good at this, and I know you have some suggestions on it. Can you fill that in for notaries in Mississippi?
Well, first of all, I'd search Meetup to see if there's a Meetup. And I would say if there is not a formalized networking group for notaries in your area, start one. Just start it yourself. And you could reach out by going to signingagent.com and checking the zip code to see who else is in your zip code. You can go to Notary Rotary and Notary 123 Notary and find out who's in your area and reach out to them to say, hey, I'd like to start a networking group. Can we meet at Starbucks? And maybe you only get 2 people. Great. A group of 3 is big enough. You get started. And you can develop your own if there isn't anything for you there locally. Because there are things when you look bigger, there's national conferences, there might be other things you can attend, but for your own local area, that's how I started. I started with 2 people.
And that's great when you want to network with other notaries too. Now, also Meetup's a great resource if you want a business group, so you can network with people that might be possible clients or referral sources for you too. Meetup is great for that as well. And you can just Google business networking groups near me, and it'll blow your mind how many opportunities there are. And I can almost guarantee that you'll probably be the only notary in those groups. Most mobile notaries and loan signing agents do not seize the opportunity to join these networking groups. And sometimes these networking groups, if they're structured, they limit to just 1 person per industry. So once you're in, and that spot's yours.
Yeah. So the Red Star is one of those. BNI is one of those. The Chamber is a group. I mean, these are places where now you'll be able to interact with more than just notaries. But if you want a notary networking, then I do my own to get going.
That's
There's
the cool
something
thing.
I can add too, if they're
Yeah.
interested. We have a list of thousands of our graduates all over the country, every state. It's called our elite list, and it's on the homepage, excuse me, at notarytopro.com. Down at the very bottom of the page, there's little puppies, and those little puppies are my babies. And they have them listed by zip codes, so you could find some people real close to your area by zip code. And I'm sure that they would be open, because we're talking more and more about getting them together in groups and working together. And I'm sure that they would be open to talking to you.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If you're looking for it, you can almost be assured that there's other people who are looking for groups like that too. Whether it's just support, marketing ideas, whatever it might be, there's other people who thrive in that environment too. Here's what I'll offer you if you decide to take that on. If you're going to take it on, be ready for people to not be as enthusiastic as you are about it. You're going to run into people who are not interested. Maybe they have a different way of looking at life. Maybe they're intimidated. Maybe they're threatened by other notaries. Those aren't your people. That's okay. If you're going to do this, take it on, own it. You will find your people. You will attract. It's like that. If you build it, they will come. You put yourself out there and stay consistent and show up. And when you say that you will, this stuff can take off for you. All right, guys, that takes us right to, it's 2 o'clock my time in Arizona. I think that's 1 o'clock Pacific. We're going to go ahead and wrap up here. Thank you, Carol, for joining us again every week for Tuesday Notary Titans. Laura, great to see you. Love having you here. And guys who are on the call, thank you so much for growing yourself and your business on a Tuesday afternoon. Carol, you got something?
Yeah, I do. And I don't want to let anybody go because we're getting a lot of emails on it. If you are not listed for Primetime Notaries, which is going to be happening on Thursday, be sure and go to notarytopro.com. Halfway through the page, there's a place for you to input your email. Do it right away, because we're going to be sending out the invitation probably late this afternoon or this evening, giving you the link and everything, how to come to the meeting on Thursday at 4 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. You guys figure out what time you're at. And I think it's going to be really exciting and fun. And that's for Primetime Notaries, which is kind of aimed at the more mature notaries. So go ahead and do that, and then you get your invitation.
Love it. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Have a great week. See you next week.
Bye-bye.